On Friday night, we got a great domestic dust-up between Kieron Conway, the British and Commonwealth middleweight champion, defending those belts against George Liddard, who's 12-0. And there's no better place on the planet to host that kind of fight than York Hall. It's one I'm really buzzing for. On paper, it looks to be a good fight where both guys' styles gel really, really nicely. And I think it will transform into a really exciting, gripping fight. When you look at both guys' careers, Conway's a lot more long in the tooth and naturally has the more impressive CV because he's just had more fights, been around a lot longer. But Liddard hasn't put a foot wrong so far and has fought at a decent level and won it obviously at a decent level, bearing in mind he's only had 12 fights. Conway, as I said, has a more impressive CV, which you'd expect for someone that's been around a bit longer. You're looking at the guys he's beat, guys like JJ Metcalf and Linus Adofia. Two really, really solid wins. Linus is a guy that I'm really, really high on. I thought he had all the talent in the world, was really, really good. And the fight was stopped 4 rounds in due to an injury, but Conway was really impressive that night. He set about him, looked quite spiteful. He's not really known for his punch power, but in that fight he looked quite heavy-handed and looked really, really good. The injury probably played a lot of a factor in why that fight was stopped, but prior, Conway was bossing it and looking really, really good. JJ Metcalf was a great unanimous decision win where he looked really good, and Metcalf was a decent fighter himself. Most recently beat Jerome Warburton, looked very aggressive and looked like he had a point to prove and went about his work really nicely in that fight, stopping him quite early. He also beat Ryan Kelly, a fight where he actually laboured and coasted to quite a lot and made the fight a lot more nip and tuck than it should have been. With all due respect to Ryan Kelly, he's a good fighter, very tough, very game, but Conway is a level above, but just didn't quite show it that night. Did in flashes, but took his eye off the ball and didn't really concentrate enough fully to really win that fight as emphatically as he should have otherwise. He took a loss early on in his career against Derek Asaze in the Boxer tournament, which obviously was 6 years ago and over 3 rounds. You can't really tell much about that one, to be honest. He lost to a very, very good amateur in Solomon Sissoko. He did actually drop Sissoko in round 9, and it was quite a tight fight where he did lose by a couple of rounds, but it was actually a split decision. So certainly done his stock no harm at all in that fight. Done very, very well. Gave a great account of himself. And he also lost quite wide to Ammo Williams, but we've seen that Ammo Williams is a very, very good fighter, having only lost to Shiraz himself. So when you look at him, he also got a draw actually as well a few years back now against Ted Cheeseman, a fight I actually thought he won pretty clearly, if I recall rightly. But Cheeseman was a very good fighter, very effective, sort of domestic kind of level. So yeah, when you look at Conway's CV, he's clearly a very capable fighter. Not the biggest of punchers, but I do feel he actually, when he sits down on his punches, which isn't often enough, he probably does have a bit more pop than what his record would suggest. But certainly needs to tighten up on his concentration because far too often he just labours to fights and doesn't really look bothered. If he put his foot down, he can make a lot of his fights a hell of a lot easier. But when you look at Liddard, as I say, has done pretty well for a kid with only 12 fights. He beat Derek Asaze, who obviously I just said beat Kieron Conway, although it was a few years later down the line. Asaze a little bit more longer in the tooth now. But that was actually a close fight. Asaze done well. He pushed Liddard. At times made Liddard look a little bit raw, a little bit novice-y, if it's fair to say. But overall, Liddard won the fight by a couple of rounds and done well. And Asaze is a good man to have on your record so early on in your career. But he was the first kind of guy that really pushed Liddard a bit, made him work, didn't just fall over and ask questions of him. He's got another good win against George Davey on the record where he looked really, really spiteful, really heavy-handed and just generally really impressive. Davey's a decent fighter. He also got a win last time out against Aaron Sutton where he just looked like a machine, just set on Sutton from the first bell and battered him from pillar to post, dropping him numerous times. He's got another win on his record against Omar Alunga, who at 41 years of age, ready to collect his bus pass. No one had seen him fight prior, so no one really knows what kind of level of fighter he was. So there's so many question marks on that one. Went about his business well that night, won in the first round. But again, as I say, there's got to be question marks on Alunga because he had a decent record, very good record actually on paper, 29-2 I think it was. But you look at the list of his opponents, no names anyone's heard of, and there's barely any footage of him online prior to that. So yeah, you can only take that one with a pinch of salt really. It'll be a really interesting fight in my opinion if, and it's a big if, George Liddard can knock Conway out of his rhythm, because Conway is someone that once he's in that rhythm, if he is fully switched on, we've seen a few times before, he's a very, very difficult man to beat. He's quite tricky, quick, elusive, And once he's in that rhythm and he gets his jab going, he works behind that jab on the back foot. He's a very difficult man to disrupt, and he does have the style to really kind of make you look quite ordinary. And full props to Liddard for taking this in just his 13th fight, because as I say, there is a risk that Conway will just old man him a little bit and make him look quite basic and quite average. And that's no disrespect to Liddard, because that's more me kind of bigging up Conway, because Conway is someone I'm really high on, but he does often leave you frustrated when he takes his eye off the ball. But he mustn't do that Friday night, otherwise Liddard does have the ability and the real capabilities to kind of push him and unsettle him. He's got very quick hands, very high work rate, and as I said, he's a good puncher with decent power. So if he is able to disrupt that rhythm, we've got a very interesting fight on our hands. But ultimately, I do just think that boxing is about timing and about levels, and I feel like right now, currently, Conway is just a level above and has the ability to just outthink and outmaneuver him right now, outman him, just with all the experience he's picked up over the years. But yeah, so if I was pushed for a prediction, I would say that Conway, I feel, will win quite comfortably. But full credit to Liddard for taking it. He's certainly young enough and good enough to come back stronger and still have a great career. I just feel like timing's such a big thing in boxing, and I just feel like right now Conway is also going to be chomping at the bit to make a good statement as well, coming up against a kid that everyone's bigging up, a prospect. He's going to want to show who's boss, remind people he's still here and move on to bigger things. And I just feel like with his skill set, if he's really switched on and focused, which I believe he will be Friday night, because this is make or break for him effectively, I just feel like he'll be too slick and too good for him on the night. So yeah, why points win in favour of Kieron Conway in my opinion. But let me know in the comments what you think.